Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Unleash Your Voice. And I hope that wherever you are listening from, you are cozy and warm today because I know the last couple of weeks have been cold and full of a lot of stormy weather for many of us. Personally, our pipes froze one day on one of the coldest days. I woke up to no water and then a pipe burst in the basement. So we had quite a mess and situation to deal with. And I know I'm certainly not alone, but hopefully we don't have any more of that in our future. And I hope that you also weathered the stormy weather okay, depending on where you are. Well, something that I know will certainly warm you up is our guest today. Allison Macalik is a seasoned corporate leader with over a decade of experience in tech, specifically in pre-sales and solutions engineering. She's known both for her strategic mindset and emotional intelligence. Allison is deeply committed to empowering others and to helping them find their voice. She founded the WISE chapter at salesforce.org, so that's Women in Solutions Engineering. She coaches with the Pre-Sales Collective, and she co-created 4 Under 3, where she co-hosts the Imposter Talks podcast and facilitates Fight Your Imposter workshops for ERGs worldwide to help people combat imposter syndrome. And she has also built her own personal brand as a silly goose in corporate. And we are going to hear all about that today. Also, fun fact, Allison and I met on LinkedIn. And it was one of those connections. We got on a call just to have a coffee chat. And it just has turned into a really great friendship. And I just, I know we hear a lot of negative things about social media, but I think this is the perfect example of the positive impact. Allison and I live in different countries. We probably wouldn't have met otherwise, but LinkedIn brought us together. And I'm really looking forward to you hearing what she has to say today about personal branding and finding your voice in the corporate world. Allison, it's so great to have you here on Unleash Your Voice.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I love listening to you when you're on LinkedIn. You're on my feed all the time now because I like all your content. I'm like, oh, yes, there she is. I love it. This is an honor. Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel the same way about you. And now we're going to have content that is collaborative. So that's even better.
Great. Can't wait.
So I said your job title in the intro, but I also know that we often hear job titles and we don't really know what they mean. So how would you describe your job as Director of Solutions at Ontech?
So that's like my full-time job. I always say that, first of all. So I've been in the world of pre-sales since 2015. And pre-sales really partner with the sales team. We're your trusted advisor. We do the demos, we do the presentations, we do the scoping. We try to understand what the client is trying to solve for and make it come to life inside of our product. And so I was at Salesforce for 5 years. And then I went to Ontech. I've been here almost a year and a half now. And I lead a team of 6. And basically, we work with the entire sales org. We're not separated by vertical or anything like that. We just help how we can. And we are the pre-sales team, but we do work upsells and different things like that for clients. So I manage a team of 6 amazing humans, and we help a team. I think lately the number was like 25 sellers, which is kind of crazy ratios, but that's what we do. That's what I do every day.
Amazing. Okay, so how did you end up working in tech and in pre-sales? Like, was that always your plan?
No, I didn't even know what this was. So I went to University of Texas, and when I graduated, that's right when the economy was really bad. And my first job, I made, I think, like $28,000. And I was like, oh, I have made it. Like, I was so pumped. I was like, this is amazing. And I worked for a startup in digital. It was a beauty company. And I got to write reviews. And then I started doing a lot of the web design. Like, I was so young, but I was like, this is fun. So then I went to an ad agency, and I noticed along the way, I was really good at presenting. Like, I am like a natural born shambone. Like, I like presenting. I like giving presentations. I like unifying people on an idea. I like bringing people together. And I was doing this at an ad agency here in Dallas called the Richards Group. It's now called TRG. And I remember presenting for a big nationwide client. And afterwards, a rep, like a sales rep, came up to me and he was like, you need to be a solution consultant. And I was like, okay. Like I had no idea, no idea, to the point where I interviewed, got the job. I had onboarding in New York, and a seller there was like, are you getting ready to demo all day? And he goes, oh, no, he asked me that. And I said, oh, I don't do that. And he goes, what do you think you do here? And I was like, I actually don't know. I have no idea.
I
I had no
love
clue.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? So every time I ask someone in pre-sales, like especially solutions consultants, like, how did you end up doing this? Everyone starts with, I didn't even know what this role was, like before someone told me about it, or, before I interviewed for it.
Yeah.
It's so, I think almost everyone in that role has an interesting path of getting there. I had a similar experience where I was in journalism, and I was looking for another way to use my presentation and storytelling skills.
Right.
And I just happened to meet another woman who used to be in journalism and had pivoted to being a solutions consultant. And then she told me about the job. But I also, similarly, somebody had said to me, I think it was after I got the job in the week, before I started, like, oh, so you're going to be working in sales? And I was like, no, it's not a sales role. And I got there and I'm like, oh no, this is definitely a sales role. But it's so funny how that happens. And it's a very interesting role. And I find, like, because it's such a unique combination of skills, that people do come from all different backgrounds and they sort of feed into it.
So yes, I get it. We say it's the number one job that no one knows exists. I say that all the time. And I've been in this for 10 years. And still people are like, what's an SC? What's an SC? What is pre-sales? And I'm like, it's a really fun job. That's what it is. Don't worry about it.
It is a really fun job. And I have to say, if I was doing, I love what I do every single day, but if I was going to do something else, I would definitely go back to being a solutions consultant, because I did really love it.
Yeah. Well, it's so funny because I had this really strong storytelling background, this really strong ad agency background, to the point where I failed my first certification. I failed it. Like I didn't know platform. I didn't know how to like work in a tool. I knew how to sell it. It was very confusing. And so this is back, I guess, in 2015. And I failed, and I never failed anything in my whole life. And I was like, this is not for me. I can't do it. What am I doing? And that night I went and saw Pitch Perfect 1 in the movie theater, and they inspired me. And I was like, I'm going to pass this certification. And so all weekend long, I went through and I was listening, and I wrote out my whole talk track and like, thank God. Because otherwise, if it wasn't for Pitch Perfect, I wouldn't be here. I would be doing advertising still. Because I'm like, it was really hard. It was really hard for me at first.
I love that story though. Like, what a great story about the entry point into tech, into pre-sales. And the fact that I feel you when you said I've never failed anything in my life, like overachievers everywhere
Yes.
are like, I know that feeling and it hurts.
Yes.
And then I'm sure later you probably heard like, oh, lots of people fail that. Like it happens on the first time, right? But
Yeah.
it doesn't feel that way when you've spent your whole life being a high achiever, gifted, like always top of
Yes.
your class. Yeah.
Yes. Are you an eldest daughter too?
Yes. Also an eldest
Same.
daughter, also
Same.
firstborn granddaughter, daughter of immigrants.
Same.
Like,
Well, not daughter of immigrants, but firstborn granddaughter for sure. Yep.
Yeah. So like the personality traits that go along with those things are very real.
Yeah, I know. I see you.
So, okay, you talked about that. That's a huge turning point in your career, pivoting from advertising to pre-sales. Is that your biggest career turning point, or does something else come to mind when I ask you what that is?
So, yes, I did do a tiny stint after I was at Sprinkler. And before I went to Salesforce, I was like, well, I want to understand the full buyer. I want to understand the full buying cycle. So I did a little baby stint where I was success at a startup company, and I did not like it. And I love success managers. We need them. Oh my God, amazing. I did not like being in a support role. I was like, my gifts are to present and to sell you on this idea. And it was so jarring because they're like, we already have it. Like, we don't need you to present. Like, just help us. And I was like, oh, this isn't as fun for me. So after that, I went to Salesforce. And then, so that was probably the biggest pivot. And then I've just lived in pre-sales ever since.
Wow, amazing. I want to talk to you about Salesforce because I also worked at Salesforce. And, one of the things that I am always talking about on this podcast to my clients during my master classes is the importance of having a personal brand. And it's important in any industry, especially as the more you climb in your career, but especially when you are at bigger companies like Salesforce, a 70,000 person company, like you need to have a brand for yourself and you need to stand out. And I know you're really passionate about this too, because you've taken such a cool, unique approach. You've branded yourself, as we see on your hat, for those of you watching on YouTube, as a silly goose in corporate. So I want to know, like, where did that come from? What was happening at your career in life when that identity first showed up? Tell me everything.
Okay. So I had never really understood the power of a personal brand until I got to Salesforce. And it was basically told to us every single week, to the point where when I became a manager, I was like, all right, as part of our, goals, our V2 mom for the year, that's your yearly goals. You are going to be posting on our company-wide or SC-wide Slack channel. You're going to be establishing a voice. And they're like, I don't want to. And I'm like, you're going to. You have to your point, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And somewhere along the way, as I was coaching my team and especially coaching these young women, I realized that I was being corporate. Okay, I'm telling them to do this. And they're looking at me like, how do you do this? And I was like, well, say this. And it just felt like a robot. And I was like, none of my true personality is coming through in this. And to my core, I am a silly goose. That's just who I am. So at Salesforce, I wasn't fully embodiment of haha, here we go. And we'll talk to you about now, how I am now. But even back then, I was like, okay, I'm silly, I'm fun, and we're this is not, ER. We're not saving lives. We can have a little fun. And then COVID hit, and we were all just in these screens. And I had just had my second baby, a little girl. And I was like, y'all, I'm barely hanging on. And so along that path, it's my brand became super authentic and then super just me. And me at the end of the day is not hello, my name is Allison. And so it's the more I leaned into who I am, the bigger my deals would be. The more fun I was having, the clients were having more fun, my team was having more fun. And it got more empowering. And then I got more bold as I went. And then I got bolder. And then I got really bold. And so here you see now. Now I just I'm also, I'm 40. So it's okay, here we go. But I think early in your career, you're trying to learn and all these things and you try to be like everyone else. And it's that is not your superpower. Your superpower is being you and then figuring out how to amplify that and showing other people too that you can be you. And that's okay. That's actually what we need.
Oh my gosh. So much yes to all of that.
I get fired up.
Yes. Oh my God. Well, me too, because it's so true. The further you lean into who you really are and what sets you apart, the more the right people and opportunities are going to find you.
Yes.
Because to your point about when you are trying to be someone or something you're not, people can tell. We've all met those people who are like, that felt a little off or that didn't feel authentic. Right. And it does. Sometimes it takes some time to find your voice. And I appreciate too what you said about how everything changed, when you had your second child. We have these milestones in our lives, whether it's motherhood, maybe it's changing jobs, moving to a new country or city, but there are shifts. So it just means your personal brand isn't necessarily always the same, right? And you lean into different parts of yourself at different moments. But I think that's so powerful. So once you really leaned all the way into being a silly goose in corporate, what happened for you? You mentioned everything kind of exploded, deals, your team was having more fun. It sounds like it really opened some doors for you.
Yeah. So it didn't really have a name, but Russ, my husband, a couple years ago, he got me a shirt and it said Mommy's Silly Goose Juice. And it was a duck holding a mimosa. And I was like, this is the best present anyone's ever given me. And it was a Christmas present. And I was like, I love this. And he was like, babe, you're the biggest silly goose I've ever met. And I was like, I am. And so it was kind of just, in the back of my mind. And at this point, I'd been at Salesforce for 5 years and like not super silly, but like very authentic, to the point where one of the girls on my teams told me years later, she came to our team because in her interview, I was holding a sick child in my lap and she had twin boys. And I didn't know that. She said it on like a podcast years later. And she was like, that's the leader I want to work for. And I was like, what? That's amazing. But I start, just all these little micro moments that lead to it. So fast forward in April of 2024, my dogs and I were attacked by a dog. And I talk about it on LinkedIn some. And then it got to a point where I was like, I can't talk about this anymore. But I went on leave at Salesforce. And then I was on leave for 6 months and we went to Montenegro with the kids. We were there, kind of like you said, another country for 6 weeks. And I was like, I don't know how else to be anymore. I don't know how to go back to that person. Like I went through psychotherapy and then, some PTSD and a lot from this experience. But I jumped in and I fought this dog with my bare hands to save my dogs. And one didn't make it, one did. And I still have scars. I still have like all these things on my arms from the dog attack. And I started a podcast about the experience, all these things. And I was like, okay, I'm starting the company I'm at now, Ontech. That was about 1.5 years ago. And I was like, at this point in my life, like, I don't know how to be anything else. So we're just going to fully lean in to being a silly goose. And it just felt like everything in my life like lined up. And so at work, I'm silly. Like the first meeting I did for the company, it was all gifts, all of it. Like a gift was going in the background and I was just up there presenting and they were like, who is this woman? And like first time I met my team, just like we had an on-site, I think last December, and we were creating AI agents and we are revolutionizing our entire like go-to-market with these agents from ChatGPT. Then I was like, okay, if you want to share and present, you have to wear this insane Albert Einstein wig. We have so many pictures and like it was so much fun. And we created these agents that we now use at the company. We have Dobby, he's our discovery agent. We have Hermione, she's our demo agent. We have Albus, who is our thought leadership agent. And we're building Hagrid right now, who's our qualification agent. And it's like the impact that we did and just having fun. And like everyone had to have when they would present, they had to have their walkout music, like if they were a famous baseball player. So they had their walkout music and they had an Albert Einstein wig on. And we had so much fun. We got more done on that day than we've done, just focused, impactful work. And everyone was like, that was the most fun we've ever had. And I was like, yeah, like there are things that happen to your brain when it's not in a scared, intimidated way. It's like when it's in a relaxed, fun state, like different things are firing, neurons are firing, you're building, you're collaborating. And honestly, it's like, I don't know how else to be. So we're just going to really lean into it and like spread the silly and spread the joy. And you could see it in the work. Like our team is insanely productive. And it's like, I guess I'm the leader that I always wanted. That's who I decided to be.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And there is so much research on how happy employees are productive employees, are top performing employees, well rested, appreciated employees are top performing employees. And it's like you're bringing all of that in and it's bringing you joy too, obviously bringing your team joy. And I think you're making such a good point too about how work can be fun. Like you came out with something that like those new AI agents, I mean, that's also a lot of work, right? But how much more enjoyable is it when people are like wearing wigs while sharing their ideas and like we're taking funny photos in between? And you're right, it just your creativity can't flourish and flow when you are constantly stressed and anxious and under pressure, stressed out, being micromanaged. Like
I know.
Those are creativity killers.
Yeah. And just the amount of trust that I have in my team. Like, I'll give you an example. This is not something that's built overnight. Like you take a long time to build trust and it's broken. It can be broken like that. And so, obviously it all lives under Silly Goose, but it's like, it really depends on all these like sub values, So for me, it's like I got crystal clear with fun, authenticity, fairness, And then everything kind of like flows from that. So I've been out I had a hernia surgery and fun, after babies, you don't know what happens. Again, wild things happen. But my team, we had the opportunity to join this really cool AI workshop and we were asked to do it. And at first I was like, oh gosh, I'm not going to be there. I'm out. And then I was like, no, my team has it. Like they're going to show up and show out. Like they're going to be amazing. And they were. And I was getting compliments about my team. My team was saying how amazing the workshop was. And I wasn't even there. And it's like all these things happen when you have like a fun, safe environment and people don't even really think about it. So as all this has been happening, right? Like very much internal at the company, Silly Goose. Somewhere along the way last year, I was like, I'm going to do this on my LinkedIn too. And I had never done that before. So I hired a coach. Her name is Leah Vernon. She's all over LinkedIn. If you haven't followed her, she's amazing. And I hired her to help me be this person who I am anywhere else but LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn was for some reason the scariest thing to me. It was more scary than like starting a coffee shop and doing job changes. Like it was scary. And she did an audit of my LinkedIn and she said, this reads like a corporate brochure. And I was like, because I'm living this like silly life outside. And she was like, that is not coming through. So I was like, okay, I have to be brave. And so then I started bringing the Silly Goose to LinkedIn. And I kind of it's off to the races from there. So now it's gotten real unhinged over there. But it's like, take have more fun than I've ever had.
That's amazing. And I feel like I see your posts, like people love them. They respond well to that energy because it's different, right? And it's very authentic. Like I know we don't know each other super well, but when I'm reading your content, I can hear your voice. And I always feel like that is the mark of like real authentic content. And that it is kind of rare too, right? To have, and it doesn't mean you always are just like fun and what, like you also post about things that are serious and work related and grounded, but you have your own lens on it, and you have a personal brand that's very clear.
Yeah. And I saw your post on personal branding and I was like, I have a great story for her. So now what's happened is I get DMs, I get texts, I get calls from people sending me pictures of geese in the wild, like from CEOs, from companies. They're like, oh, I saw this and thought of you. And it was a post that you did about like being unforgettable or something, like when your personal brand. And I'm like, I am so much a like Silly Goose now that other people I don't even know will send me. I got pictures of socks the other day of this goose. I got a picture of a blanket and they're like, do you want this? People I do not know. And I'm like, they are remembering to the point where when they're in their world, they're like, oh, this woman I saw on LinkedIn would probably appreciate this goose. It's like, what is happening? It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
That is so fun. And yes, you are so right. I mean, this is a really great example actually of how your brand becomes memorable and how it leads to like also some of those people who reach out to you. I'm sure you've connected with them. They've led to conversations, right? And it feels so much more real when you're connecting about something that's actually meaningful and part of who you are. I think something I talk about when, especially talking to people who work at bigger companies, is your LinkedIn content can actually support your internal growth. Because, let's take Salesforce as an example, 70,000 people. Obviously, when you're posting in your Slack channels that are your team or your department, you're not getting that exposure. But when you post on LinkedIn, executives and leaders from any department can see you, right? And remember you. And I like when I worked there, I mean, I was really trying to brand myself as a storyteller, as a speaker. I really wanted to be on more stages on behalf of Salesforce. And so I had this whole story. I was always talking about my background as a news anchor and morning show host and, my deep knowledge of storytelling and using stories to compel people to take action. And I told that story enough when I was meeting people, always the like, oh, how did you end up working in tech? Getting them to share their story and then them being like, oh, what about you? And then sharing this whole career narrative I had built. But all of a sudden, I started getting messages on the internal company Slack channel like, hey, I heard you used to be a news anchor and that you wanted to do more presenting. Can you speak at this conference? We need a presenter for this webinar. And like those results are real, right? It's exactly what you're saying. Like people really do remember when you say something that is different, and it can actually lead to opportunities, whether it's for like relationships or jobs, whatever it may be.
100%. Like earlier this year, I do a lot of webinars and I do a lot of like hosting and I just help companies out. And I was like, okay, I can like do something with this. So now I'll like do a promotion for if I do it for 2Win, right? I do a lot for them. I do a lot for Pre-Sales Collective. And I'll be like silly goose reporting for duty. And over Christmas and the holidays, I always had like a sweater. My mom gave me 30 vintage sweaters from like the 80s. And I wear them for every single time to the
Yes.
point where when I'm interviewing people who want to come to work in my company, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember you from your sweater. Or if we're in a picture, it's just like, it kind of just all lives under silly. But now it's got to the point where, oh, if Allison is going to be the moderator, it's going to be fun. And we had one for the Pre-Sales Collective this week. We had 357 people register. I think 162 join. It was like the highest number ever. And it's like, obviously, we had an amazing panel, all the things talking about AI. It's great. However, people know that they're going to be entertained at the end of the day. Like it's going to be
Yes.
engaging. It's going to be authentic. People are going to have conversations. They're going to feel safe because I've done it so much. It's like that muscle. And they're going to be laughing and we're going to be learning like really deep, great agentic AI things. And we're going to be having a good time. And
Yes.
so now I do a ton of that and I love it. It's like I want to do more. That's one of my things. Sorry, we're at my coffee shop and it is hopping in here today. Like, I don't know if you can hear the phone ringing. Thank you all for your patience here. It's gotten a little crazy today. But the beauty of it is kind of to your point. It's like my brand, it's bigger than me now, And that's kind of beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. And I think you raise a really good point too about how brands can be multifaceted, right? Because yours is, yes, it's fun, but it's also very strategic. And people know, like, I mean, you're a director of solutions. Like you are like a corporate badass, but you're making things fun, but it's like people are still learning a lot. It's still, right? Like it's still strategic work that you're doing. And in fact, you're facilitating probably even more of that because people are having fun and want to be there with you. So, yeah, absolutely love that. I actually also wanted to ask you about your passion for elevating underrepresented groups and in particular women because you actually founded Women in Solutions Engineering, also known as WISE, when you were at Salesforce. So, take us
Yep.
back to the moment when you realized that needed to exist. Like what gap were you seeing and yeah, what were you hearing from women that sort of made you think we need this?
I think I'm just such a big believer in women can do anything. And I get really annoyed when in pre-sales it's always men. And I'm like, women are better listeners. We're better at presenting. We're better at taking the information, making it active, and then putting it back on the client. Like we're just amazing. And I will go to my grave saying that women are better pre-sales people than anybody in the whole world. And I would just look around, I'd go to these meetups. I was always the only woman. And I was like, this is insane. How is this happening? And I realized, early on, like, okay, be the change that you want to see. Fine. We do not have a WISE group at salesforce.org. So at the time we were salesforce.org, we were away, we were the nonprofit arm. And we didn't have it. We had the main one that existed and it was amazing, but we were very different from the rest of Salesforce. Like at the time, we are only working with the nonprofit. Like we're giving away so much stuff for free. Like it's just a very different vibe. It was almost like a startup within Salesforce. And we're like, we need something for us. We had, I think, 57 women at the time. And we were like, we need this. And so one of my good friends, Connie, she's now at ServiceNow. Shout out Connie. She's probably going to watch this. We're like best friends. And we were like, let's do something with another woman named Salua. And we decided to create our own WISE. And we made it. We went to Kate McArdle and we said, can we make our chapter? She was like, sure, these are the guidelines. But we were like, we need a budget and we're going to bring speakers. And we lined up programming for the whole year. And we decided to have an event. Like we just were like, we're doing this. And I think something that I've learned over time is when you decide like your values, right? Like mine are fairness, authenticity, and fun. Like that's my values. And Silly Goose obviously is the external of that. But it's like there are other things about like being bold Like at one point I was like, I will slack Mark Benioff to get this approved. Like, what are we have to lose? Like it kind of just is like, we have to do this. Like we simply cannot do this. And so in terms of getting support for women or bringing more women into pre-sales or, whatever that is, it's like, let's do it. Like, what are we going to, seriously, what are we going to lose? Like, no one's going to tell us no. I think women especially just don't ask. And I was like, we need to just do it and then ask for forgiveness. So that's something I've been doing over the last couple of years too, because like if you're trying to help and empower, no one's going to tell you to stop. And I think people just get scared. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's so inspiring. And I'm seeing all of these common threads now as you're sharing these stories, right? You're always someone who is willing to push boundaries to do something that hasn't been done before. And one of the topics that you tackle is imposter syndrome in your workshops. And so I'm curious, after you started Wise, is that when you started to see like the real experiences that people were having with imposter syndrome and realize
oh,
like that was something that needed to be sort of like tackled on its own?
yeah. And I think why I respect you so much in the work you're doing is because when I became a leader, I saw how promotions happened. Like the wool was pulled back and the women were not advocating for themselves and then doing their brand and then posting, and like the things they needed to do to get seen and then essentially get a promotion because they're fighting, they're not, but they're leaders, what they needed to do. And I would be in these rooms where they'd be like, well, I haven't worked with them on a project. And I'm like, this woman did this, and this. What are you talking about? They had no idea. And I was like, "Ugh." So I took it back to Wise and I realized a deep thing in that was imposter phenomenon, feeling like they couldn't, feeling like they, kind of what you teach essentially in your workshops, what you're talking about constantly on LinkedIn, their own brand story. And so a friend of mine, Hannah West, she's at Slack. Hannah Bloking, she's at AWS. We've been good friends for years and years. And we just created this imposter syndrome workshop and we brought it to Wise, we brought it to AWS, and then we just started doing it and bringing it to companies. And at first, we would only do it for women, like ERG groups. And then we realized, oh, men also experience this too. So then we opened it up to everyone. But I think women are more vocal about feeling it, but we have realized men, they feel it too. But we really just wanted to empower people and kind of fight their own imposter as well. And maybe that's why I'm the silliest goose ever, because I've done a billion of these workshops and I'm like, I got this. But it's just like embedded in me now.
Yeah. Well, and something that you said earlier about, the impact of experiences in your personal life on your professional life, I think that's such an important piece of fighting imposter syndrome too. Because I think, especially as women, we're constantly feeling like we have to prove we deserve to be in corporate spaces, and like sort of validate that we have the experience and the credentials to be here. And that can lead to a lot of imposter syndrome. And part of that also is separating our personal lives and our professional lives. But in reality, you can't do that. What happens in your personal life affects your professional life. We're whole people. We're not like the people in Severance who have like separate, a separate person at work and a separate person at home. And so one of the exercises I do in my workshops and with my clients is a turning points exercise where I get them to list their biggest turning points, personal and professional. And every single time someone's like, "Oh, like do I have to do the personal ones? Like this is work related, right?" And I'm like, "You do." Because everything is connected and I can't get a whole picture of your core values or the core themes in your career if I don't know about personal and professional. So I think it's really great that you have found this way to bring them both together. And now you're helping other people like fight their own imposters and do exactly what you did.
Yeah. I mean, I remember you telling me about when you were a journalist and on an anchor and you leaned into your puns because you love puns.
Yes. Yes.
I think about that all the time. It's like you were pulling that part of back and that was like a magic part of you. And I just think I had been trying to fit this mold for probably 15 years, honestly. Like now I can look back and be like, oh, no, it was like a long, long time of trying to be someone I wasn't. And I just wish I could go back to her and be like, girlfriend, just be this way from the very beginning. Like, I think I would be so much further than I even am right now. And so it's like, you get older and you want to give wisdom and share. And it's like, the biggest piece of advice is like, just like be you, like literally find your values though, and then let that guide you in everything you do. And I don't like people who say like, don't bring your full selves to work. I'm like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, I want to know if you're having a hard day. I want to know if something bad happened. I want to know if something good happened. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're not robots. It's crazy.
I absolutely agree. And that story, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think I've told it on the podcast before, but just for anyone who hasn't heard, when I was a news anchor and morning show host, I got this feedback when I first started that I needed to relax and be more myself. And I just was like, what does that even mean? Because I was trying so hard to be professional. Like I wanted to be somebody who was credible. I even cut my hair. Like my hair, I cut it short because I'm like, oh, I'll look more authoritative and credible. And like if I'm a news anchor with shorter hair. And yeah, and then people kept saying like, just be yourself. Like you're so stiff out there. That's not who you are in person. And I could not wrap my head around what that meant. And then I was at Thanksgiving with my family and we're sitting around, and my family, we all love puns, cheesy jokes, like those dad joke one-liners. And we're just like punning nonstop. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is who I am when I'm relaxed, when I'm at my most comfortable. This is what I need to bring to that TV person. And I did. And oh my gosh, like it's exactly what happened for you with Silly Goose. People were just like, we love this. I started getting all these messages. People come up to me in the street and be like, oh, I loved your pun about this. Or, oh my gosh, I roll every time you do your puns, but like I still love that you do them, and it just became this thing that became relatable and that connected me to people. And also it just allowed me to be myself. And I think that is such a good point that you're bringing up here, that when you do that, you also just feel better. Like, did it feel liberating for you to just bring that part of yourself to work?
Yes. And like the world is hard right now and it's heavy and awful things are happening. And it's like, you have to find your daily joy. Like you have to, you can't just be like, okay, I'm just going to be a corporate robot all day and not be a full person. And then like turn on the news and be depressed. And that, like, you're not living at that point. So it's like, sometimes lately, especially, I feel like being my full self is almost like an act of resistance, and like, fine, I'm going to double down on the joy. Like I'm going to rename a coffee shop Little Joy and we're going to dive into the joy, like I don't know at this point, again, like I said earlier, like how else to be, but it's like when you find that person, like silly, joy, fair, authentic, it's like, it just explodes. And then you can bring so much more to the world. It's like people need you to be you. They need it, especially right now.
So true. It is so needed right now. You also mentioned your coffee shop. And I mean, you are the definition of a multi-potentialite, girl. You've got the coffee shop, you do your workshops, you have your full-time job. So I'm so curious, like, because I know we have multi-potentialites who are listening now too. And sometimes there's this pressure on you have to just pick one thing. But I really like that you've embodied being someone who follows these different threads. What advice would you give to other people who maybe have a similar, like are trying to do the same thing or are wondering, should I follow all of these things or should I pick one?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So even on my LinkedIn bio, it says multi-passionate and I have like a goose now next to my name. But that is something I really struggled with for a really long time. I really did. I thought like, okay, I can only be in pre-sales, or it's the messaging is confusing, and I just kept coming back to it as like, I have ADD and I have a lot of side passions and I cannot keep fighting this. So I've only given this presentation once or twice because I'm still kind of like, maybe like getting over that fear of even this, but it's like the power of passion mapping, because I did a passion map on this piece of paper and it was all these different bubbles. And I was like, what do I want to get rid of? And I was like, I don't want to get rid of any of it. Like every single thing on this piece of paper. And I have a picture of it up when I give that presentation. It's like, these are me. Like I have to do these things. Like there's something in my soul that is like, okay. And I need to give myself the freedom to be able to go explore that. And so like when we had the opportunity to get this coffee shop, I was like, sure, Like, let's do it, and like, but we made it ours. We made it Little Joy, and we made it like so pouring into the community, and we just went all in. And it's like so many times I used to think there's not enough time. And then I would just realize, like, when you want to do something, like, you find the time. You wake up early, or maybe not go out with your girlfriends at night because you need to get this done, or there's just different things, but it never feels like, oh, I'm giving up something. It's like my life is fuller now because of this. Like, there are so many things I don't even talk about on LinkedIn. Like, I own an apartment building in Birmingham, Alabama, because I got really into real estate during COVID. Like, what? Like, I can talk about all that. Like, I have 2 podcasts. Like, there are things that I have to be really, I think, more strategic with on LinkedIn, because I don't want to like bombard people like, she does that, oh my God. But it's like, when it's all under the umbrella of this silly goose, it's like it gives myself permission to follow these passions. And, maybe next week I'll be really into like quilting. I have no idea, but it's like, I can't just fit in this box. Like, it doesn't work for me. So I really adapted the bubbles, and it's just like what feels good, and just listening to my intuition. So it's like, go for it. Go for it. We're multidimensional people. We can have multiple passions. Okay.
That is incredibly inspiring. And I hope it's liberating for any of you listening who are like, hey, I feel pressured to pick a lane. Like, you don't have to, right? You can follow multiple passions and find success in all of them, or have some primary areas that you focus on. But yeah, I think that is so encouraging for people who often get told you shouldn't do that. You mentioned the advice you would give to your younger self. What would you I know we've talked a little bit about different things we both have done to find our own personal brands, but what would you tell someone who's maybe still trying to figure out what their brand is, or what they want it to be?
Oh, such a good question. I didn't do a values exercise until I was a manager at Salesforce. It was the first time I ever did it. And if I had done that early in my career, I think it would have opened up a lot of doors, or like unlocked things in my mind to just be like, okay, I know who I am. And for so long, it's like I knew, but I'm a visual person. So knowing that, like, I did this whole value, like, you have all these cards, and I've seen it in the workshop I did. I had a paper, and you went through like 100, and you were just like circling the ones. And then I did this with women in New York for a conference, and then they picked, and then we nailed it down to like 5 or 6. And then you keep working on it. And when I did that, for me, I was like, oh my God, like, what have I been doing? Like, how have I been living with like not knowing my values, like who I am as a person? And it's different for everybody, and they can change. But like, for me, it's like fun, number one, authenticity, and fairness. And it's like, if something doesn't feel fair, like, I'm gonna raise my hand, because that's like in my gut, something screaming of like, no, I don't know about that. Or if something's not authentic, or it's like how I show up, how I'm a leader, or how I'm an individual contributor, like all those things could have been so much easier. I feel like for years, like, I didn't do that, until I was 15 years into my career. So get yourself some values, like figure out who you are.
Totally. Yeah, this is I just did this in a masterclass I did last week. And for any of you listening who weren't there, if you want the replay, send me a message on social media and I'll send it to you. Because just like brands, like, makeup companies or any food brands, whatever, they have brand pillars. Like, exactly what you said. We need them too, right? Your personal brand needs pillars. I call them core themes, values. There are so many different ways of looking at it, but you're totally right. And I find once you identify them for yourself, it also builds confidence, because so much of that struggle in talking about yourself is not really knowing what those values and pillars are and how to articulate them. So just having some of that language can make such a huge difference.
I know. I The other day, one of my really good friends at Ontech, he described me as bold. And I was like, me? And he was like, girl, you are the boldest person I've ever met. And I'm like, I don't feel bold. I just feel like I know who I am. And it's like, of course, like, that's simply what you do. That's simply what you say. If you see an injustice, like, you speak up, or like If you see that you have a weird ratio of not equal men and women, you make a change. You raise your hand. You just do it. Like it doesn't feel like, oh, she's being bold. It just, or brave. It's just like, why wouldn't I? I know, you know? So kind of like you said, it kind of like changes your mind a little bit. And so you're not so worried about, oh, am I going to get in trouble? It's like, no, I have to say something. Of course I have to. Like at Salesforce, I was like, I'm going to slack Mark Benny off. And they're like, you need to calm down. And I'm like, why not? He'd probably welcome it. Like it's just, or I'm going to post this thing, or like I posted on LinkedIn last night. I was like, one of my kids walked in on a meeting day 4 of snowed in without a shirt on. I was like, hello. And it's like, okay, that's fun. That's silly. Like I can post about it because that's a real thing, but like that's on a silly side. But it can be anything in your life because you know who you are. And it's honestly not you being bold or brave or confident. It's just like, this is who I am. And if something doesn't feel right, I'm going to say something.
Yes, totally. I think that's such great advice. Okay, I want to put you on the spot for a second because I know as women, we often have trouble talking about our successes, things that we've achieved or that we're just things that we're proud of. So we've walked through your career today, and I would love for you to share with everyone something or the thing that you are most proud of in your career.
Oh my gosh, in my whole career, I think to date, I was really proud of becoming a manager at Salesforce. It's like career only, right? Like not the coffee shop, not the apartments, not being a mom, all that, like career focused only. It's almost impossible to get promoted internally from an IC to a manager. And I was coming into a team with all men and one woman. And it was kind of like boys club. They get mad if you say that, but it kind of was. And I was like, I need to be at that table. Like I need to be there. And I decided about a year out, that was going to be my plan. And I just started like figuring out who the players were, how to make it happen, like chipping away at this system and what I needed to do to the point where you have to give a presentation, the all men panel, about why you deserve to be the next manager on the team. And not only did I do that, and I said all the other things I'm doing, I came with a packet of 4 full pages of testimonials of me to be a manager from people all over the company, other high executives, all these women, all these men. And I basically built like a little PDF in a present. And I said, and here is my takeaway. And they had no idea what to do. They were just like, you did this? And I was like, yes, please read. It's VPs and up. Go ahead. Like in addition to a presentation, in addition to, my resume, and then this whole like PDF of like, do it, And yeah. I just think I worked so hard because I was like, this is going to be hard, but I'm going to go above and beyond because I need to be in that seat to help the women in this org. And like, I just did it. And then when I got it, it was the best feeling. I was like, I did it. And then I left. But I did it.
That's incredible. And you're right. It's so hard to get promoted from being an IC to being a manager at Salesforce, let alone on a team that is so male dominated. And I really appreciate that you shared that process with us, because I think for anyone listening, that's something that you can try and do too for yourself, right? What's a way that you can stand out? I love that you brought those testimonials, something tangible they could take with them that was different. It made you memorable. You let other people share stories about you to like validate why you deserve that. That's incredible. And I think you said you spent about a year, right? Really like mapping out the key players, probably building relationships with decision makers to make that happen.
And not just in the SE org. And I realized that a lot of the other leaders were only inside their org. And I was like, no, like these sellers and these VPs of sales, those are my friends too. And as an IC, I have worked beside them in the trenches for years. Like I'm going to tap those relationships because they know how I work. They know my work ethic and they know how my team would be. Like I'm going to look out versus what you're supposed to just look at. I was like, no. There's a great big world in here. But if you want, I made it pink and I made it really fun. And I'm happy to share that with you. But if you want to share with your cohort and with your workshops, because they can just follow the template. Like I literally just created it in Canva and I was like, here you go.
I love it. And I love that you made it pink.
I
Amazing.
did.
Excellent branding.
I did. I was like, I'm going to Elle Woods this thing. Like I'm just going to
Yes.
go all the way
Oh.
in.
So good. Allison, it was such a pleasure to have you on Unleash Your Voice. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for bringing like all of your knowledge and just your personality. Like you mentioned, the world is a heavy place right now, and I appreciate you bringing joy and lightness into it too.
Thank you so much. I have a new project I'm working on, a new podcast. So I haven't announced it yet, but when I do, I'd love to have you on as a guest too.
Oh my gosh, I would absolutely love that. And I know people are going to want to connect with you after. Is LinkedIn the best place to follow you?
LinkedIn's the best place for sure. You can DM me. I'm on it all the time to the point where I was on Instagram last night and I looked at a page and I was like, oh no, they're going to get a notification that I looked at their profile, but it's not. Like it's only a LinkedIn thing. Live and breathe LinkedIn. If you're in pre-sales, I'm very, very, very active in the pre-sales collection or the pre-sales collective. That's also a Slack channel. You can find me there. If you want to talk coffee, I run the Little Joy account. It's little.joy.cafe. There's a lot going on there too. But LinkedIn's probably the easiest.
Amazing. Okay, we'll share a link to your profile in the show
Okay.
notes. And thank you again. It was so great to have you.
Thank you. It was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I loved every minute of this conversation. And
Me
for
too.
those of you who are listening, leave us a 5-star review if you also enjoyed this episode. And I will see you next week on Unleash Your Voice.